Hello and welcome to the Artword podcast. This is a special edition in collaboration with Royal Projects. We're about to listen to an interview with one of the artists. She's called Ladan Sedighi, and the exhibition is called If You Steal My Sunshine, California Abstraction Now. Hope you will enjoy it.
I think abstraction is like taking some ideas or feelings and put it on a canvas or any, like using material and execute that feeling or idea or inspiration and make an art with it, that idea or feeling.
So how do you work with materials? How do you choose your materials?
Well, I started with painting jewelry and gems, and then I wanted to make an installation that gives the audience that the feeling of the jewelry and gems instead of looking at it, because that was the reason I was interested in painting of the gems. It was not about the design or the history of it, but it was about the reflection and the feeling of it, the excitement of looking at it. So that's why I was searching for a material to give me that excitement and the feeling. So
yeah, because I think that's a very, I'd say, obvious thing about your work. You work with shine. There's always something shiny, or not always, but I think you have a feeling for the surface.
yes.
Yeah, that's really what you're looking for. And I saw on your website, which I thought was really beautiful, you write that you strive towards a sense of pleasure
Yes.
and joy. And I can feel that in your work.
Well, great. Yeah, that's the main goal for me. Sense of pleasure and excitement, the ecstasy. That's what I'm looking for in my work. Yeah.
Because you do, I mean, in this show, you have an installation in a corner. How did that come about, this work? It's untitled, right?
Yes.
Yes.
That's how, like, yeah. Well, when I was working with this material, I realized that they are very reflective. So I chose the corner because then each side reflects to the other. So you see they expand, the lines expand, the colors will mix together when they reflect each other. So there's a very exciting effect comes out of that. So that's why I chose to have it in the corner.
How would you describe the work?
Exciting.
Yeah, and also what I find very interesting about it, because you have the shine, and like you said, you put it in the corner, you become involved with the piece.
Yes.
Because you can actually see the reflection of yourself.
Yes,
And
exactly.
if you move around that little corner, you will move around within the piece as well.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I know. That's other thing about my work, that I want it to be interactive with the audience. I want the audience to move around, see themselves, see their reflection. I mean, it keeps them busy for a while to figure out, like, the colors they see themselves in all those colors. And the colors will change also. As you move around the room, the green become purple.
So how do you work with that element, though? Because I would imagine that at your studio, you have one kind of light, and then you are here at the gallery where we have actually no natural light. It's all...
I think those are fluorescent.
Thank you very much. So how do you think about that? How do you negotiate that? Because you say that...
I think that's the interesting part about my work, that it looks different in every environment. I mean, under the sun, the reflections goes crazy everywhere. You see it on the floor, you see it on the ceiling. And then in this type of light, it's just more about the work and how it interacts with the audience. So in every environment, it looks different, and I like that about that.
I think that's the main part, that you actually allow for the work to take different shapes and forms.
Yes.
You're not trying to restrict it at all.
No.
The exhibition is also about California now and abstraction. So how are you in California? How do you think California inspires you to do your work?
I think it does. Think about the Hollywood, the shininess, the glamour, all of that. I think it's kind of indirectly inspired me. The light and space movement, all of that, it did inspire my work. But being in California and seeing all those artists' works and the sunny California also.
Yeah, it is definitely sunny, and I haven't been living here for that long, but it's also interesting how it's so much nature all the time.
Yes.
Today's misty, and the Hollywood Hills looks amazing in that, and the sky is so big, and I think we're constantly surrounded by light one way or the other.
Yes, we are, and I think that was the reason. Also because I have been inspired by light and space artists a lot, and I really like that. So I think that was the reason. The influence of California for me.
So I have a question about jewelry, because I think that's really what you started working with, right?
Yes.
I might be wrong, but jewelry is quite small.
Mm-hmm.
And your work is quite big. How did you go from let's say, the surface of a gem or a stone that's going to be on your finger into working in a full installation form in a full room? How's that process been?
Well, as I said, I was interested of the jewelry because of their details, their patterns, their reflection, and all of that. And I wanted to make a big installations that the audience feels like they're inside of the jewelry. That's how it started. That I started with the bigger pieces and fill the room and the floor with my pieces and play with lights and reflections of them.
It makes so much sense when you say that.
Thank you.
It really, really does.
Thank you.
So you made notes. Is there anything on there that that you would like to say?
Well, as a Persian American, my inspiration comes from also Persian art and culture. So it's the combination of the Eastern and Western art and ideas and technologies. So.
But this is interesting because Persian culture is very old. Mm-hmm. Of course.
Exactly.
And I would say that California is very new. Mm-hmm. Even though people have lived here for a long time, what we see of Los Angeles today is very, very new.
Exactly.
How do you negotiate that?
I'm taking something from old and mixing it with something new. The idea is from those traditional art and architect, and also I'm using the very modern Western material to combining them together to make my work in a minimal way, postmodern way. So that's the thing I'm looking for.
I must ask you if you read poetry.
Yes,
you do.
Yes, I do.
Because that's, I think, every Persian person I've ever met, you all read poetry.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's an integral part of the culture that you read poetry. Do you write as well?
Well, in Farsi, but I do write in English, but it's not as good as my Farsi. But
fair enough. But you do a bit of poetry writing as well.
Yeah, writing, yes, a little bit.
So how do you go about? Because I'm from Europe, so I have that same, I guess, negotiation, and that you come from something very old and very traditional, and I know my art history and that sort of thing, and you come here and you find yourself in something new, and you try to mix that and blend that in a way. How do you find your materials?
Well, that came from the pressure in grad school, in my class, that I had a short amount of time, and I kind of loosen up and find materials. I was just looking for something that gives me that reflection, that excitement. So that's how I came across the holographic vinyls and wraps, vinyl wraps and films, and so I wanted that mirror effect. So I found that, and I love color.
And so you're looking for something that is reflective and shiny, but also quite common in that it's easy to find somehow. It's
easy to find, but it's not a familiar material that usually artists use for making art. Like, it's not paint, it's not acrylic.
That must have been a really exciting process.
It was
actually going out and finding that.
Yes, it was. It was a fun process,
and also a bit difficult, because most people, I guess, if you're an artist, most people expect you to elaborate with acrylic or something, a material that everyone sort of associates with art making.
Exactly. Yes, I had to convince my instructors.
So is that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean, you managed to convince, or your work convinced the gallery, and you make part of this show.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's brilliant, actually. So let's see now. We've talked about the materiality of your work. That's very important. And we talked a bit about California and about abstraction. Do you think you will continue to work within abstraction?
Yes. I'm very excited about making more works and push the limits and see how far I can go with working with these different materials that are reflective, and put them everywhere, on the floor, on the walls. Any way I can work with them.
Have you done any outdoor installations?
I did, but not a lot.
Would you like to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love to, because under the natural light, my work is totally different than indoor. So that's very exciting, actually.
Yeah, I would imagine that it would look completely different, and then you would also be able maybe to walk around things to turn that into a sculpture.
Yes.
Have you worked with sculpture?
No, not really.
So you work on with this,
the panels. Yes.
So you always need a wall.
More flat surfaces, yes.
Flat surfaces hanging or leaning onto a wall.
On the wall.
Yeah.
Or laying on the floor, yes.
Exactly, but you still have that sense that you walk around them.
That's for the future, yeah.
Yeah, the future, we don't know. I mean, life is long. We have so many things we need to do.
Yes, I have so many ideas that I wanted to execute.
Well, good luck with everything.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you for your interview.
Of course. So let's start with, who are you?
I'm Rick Royale. We are at Royal Projects in downtown Los Angeles.
Would you say something about the current exhibition? How did it come about?
I wanted to do an exhibition bringing some new artists into the space. And there were a couple of artists that I thought would be interesting to show together. Instead of doing a typical kind of research the way we would have done it on other artists for this group show, what I thought would be interesting is to look at social media and see what we found visually out there, because obviously that is the way that a lot of people are looking at art now. So I put this challenge out to myself and my wife and to Nicolette, and we pulled together a group of artists that we just thought visually worked well together, that were interesting to us. And then we started looking into the artists, which is sort of often almost backwards the way that you would do it. You would know the artist first and then look at the work. One of the things that we found very curious was the commonalities between the artists that we were looking at. Many of them were women. Many of them had some sort of connection to California, whether that was they were living here, born here, had been on a residency here, etc. So that brought further questions to what this exhibition was going to be. And it really grew from there. And I think at the end, it ended up being interesting that we brought 6 different artists who really had no obvious connection to each other, but yet they had some sort of a cohesive kind of voice within their practices.
And also interesting that these artists did not know of each other beforehand.
True, exactly. After we selected a group of artists, we ended up obviously meeting them and sort of interviewing them, essentially, and visiting studios when possible. one of the things that came out in these sort of interviews was these connections that